Hi, welcome back to Let's Go Sis with your girl Tameca. I am here today to talk about everything I want to talk about, everything that's on my mind, y'all. So you can find me on Instagram at Tameca8. You can find me at you know what? On Facebook, I keep giving y'all my Tameca Howell Facebook, but I also have a Facebook page that is Let's Talk Sis. So I really want you guys to be able to tap in and talk through the week about everything that's going on, all the stuff that we're talking about, and for us to get new content. So if you can come and talk to us, let me tell you the purpose of Let's Talk Sis. I started with a movement called Let's Go Sis, and what it was about is I wanted to connect women in the community, and get us to just work with each other. Then out of that, what I saw is that we needed to start talking about some issues. Like we really got some issues going on in our community right now. So that's what this platform is. I want us to have open discussion, a safe place that we can dialogue about the issues that are plaguing our community right now. So today with me, I'm gonna call him my co-host right now because I think he been back a few times.
I like that. Co-host. Let's
Introduce
go.
yourself.
It's your boy 585, Mr. Flip the Combo. You can find me everywhere on every platform. Flip the Combo, Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else.
But listen, because I get confused, so I want to make sure that we can get it right. Is Mr. Flip the Convo 585?
Just take the Mr. off. It's Flip the Convo, everything on all platforms.
Am I taking off the 585 too?
Yes.
You got to be specific so we know how to find you, right? Because I still can't
Thank you,
find your
sister.
page.
It's up there.
I think I've been enjoying you flipping the convo as it relates to the black male's perspective. So I just want to ask you officially on air, can you come co-host with me for a little while?
We can do it.
Can you stay a little while?
Let's go.
All right, let's introduce our guest today, Trishina. And listen, I read her bio and I was going to introduce all of that, but she do a lot of stuff, so I don't want to mess up nothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you introduce yourself and tell us all about all the dope things you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. Number one, let me apologize for my voice. My allergies have been really killing me, but I am Trishina Barzar Hunter. I am the founder of Moving Mountains Coaching LLC, as well as the founder and host of the Dope Soul Collective podcast, where dope souls can vibe, connect, heal, and grow, because dope souls go through real shit. So you can find my podcast on all platforms, Dope Soul Collective, where I interview just a lot of people that have really made it and done some great thing, Peabody Award-winning poets and actors and different things of that nature, who are really sharing how they got through whatever they were going through to where they're at now. As a life coach, I do have my master's degree in psychology. I work as a mental health coach and transformational life coach, as well as couples and healthy sexuality coach. Making sure people get the help that they need.
Wait a minute. I do want you to tell us where we can find you. How are we going to find you? And then we need to talk about these couples and sexuality. I need to talk about that real fast.
We can talk about all of it. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Moving Mountains Coach. You can look up my podcast on YouTube, as well on Instagram and all other platforms, Dope Soul Collective. So I'm not hard to find. I'm Dope Soul Collective, Moving Mountains Coach, or movingmountainslifecoach.com. Mm-hmm. And you will be able to find me very easily, and I'm available.
Do a lot of men tap into your own program?
Yes, sir.
That's dope. Men, keep tapping in, man, because we need that encouragement from the ladies, too.
Hey, as I've been doing this time, so this is this third time I think I started podcast again. I've been listening to some podcasts, and I think that it's much needed. But I also think that the relationship part, I don't hear so much about that, and I don't hear a lot about mental health either. I don't hear us talking about the mental health stuff, so I'm really excited to talk about mental health in the black community today. But back up. You said that you do. See, I was reading this, and I wanted to understand. You could just give us a snippet. You said couples and sexuality. Is that what you said? Is that what?
So I am a couples coach as well. Mm-hmm. Whether it's marital issues, troubles with communication, infidelity, couples that are having trouble with their intimacy and engaging with each other and getting past certain blocks, whether they be mental or physical or from their past, whether in their sex life, or if somebody cheated or they're not communicating, or maybe they're communicating hostile or in a toxic way that's not productive for their marriage or their relationship. So that's what I do in terms of the couples coaching aspect. Now, in health and sexuality, both men and women, black, white, doesn't matter who you are, you can have a very unhealthy attitude about sex and how you pursue sex and how it fits into your life. You might be somebody that was raised like, good girls don't do that. And or you could be somebody that was raised that you're only worth something because of how good you are in bed. So it really runs deep into terms of how you find your own sexuality, what it means for you, and own it.
I like it. So this not today, but we're going to come back and talk about that if you'll come back and grace our mics.
I'd be happy to.
Because I would love to talk about how we could get to healthy sexual relationships in our community, because I think that we have perverted it a little bit. And so
I agree.
And for us men, I think we're actually a little drawn back about talking about sexuality open, especially with women.
Really?
I think, and fellas, I really think that's important to, tap into your sexuality. And that's not to say that you soft. Don't think you soft because, you tapping into some things that you should know. And it's very important, especially if you got a lady in your life, you want a lady in your life, and you plan on, having a future with a lady or anybody special in your life. So you have to tap into, some things that might be out of your realm so you can benefit from it.
Question, because this is something that you say often. That doesn't mean you're soft. You say, men, fellas, that doesn't mean you're soft. Is that something that's like?
It's a big mystique.
It's a big thing that everything y'all do you think is soft because it's
not everything. I just think
why you say
the biggest thing. A lot of times with us fellas, we think that we have to be hard or we have to be so tough in every realm of life. Well, being so tough, you can miss out on a lot of good information that's out there that's going to actually help you.
All right, I just noticed that's some things that
it's
you
prevalent.
Say.
So prevalent.
So here's what I want to do first. This is what I want to do first. I want to know, since we're going to be talking about mental health, and with mental health there comes coping skills.
Yes.
When you're operating in good mental health, I want to know, what do you do to enhance your quality of life? What is something that you do that helps enhance it, that kind of keeps you balanced? Because sometimes I feel like some of the situations that we go through get so far just because we don't have a way to deal with it or cope with it or have a release. So what do you do, Miss Trishina?
My thing is vinyl. Truthfully, vinyl and grilling will get it from me just about any time. But what I tell my clients is it's at least 5 minutes for yourself daily. Mm-hmm. People have this idea that to be in tune with self-care, you got to have an hour a day. You got to have all this extra time. Whereas literally, I'll kick it in my basement, throw on a vinyl, and it don't even have to be positive.
Vinyl. She's taking it back.
I'll throw Scarface on vinyl to SOS band real fast and just jam out to like one song and just leave
through your hood,
for a few moments. Right.
Oh, you got some classics. You got some classics. Yeah.
That's what we talking about.
And I do have that on vinyl.
Do you have it on vinyl?
I have it on vinyl.
You got the classic stuff in
Scarface,
that
the
really
All Is Yours and the Diary. Yes.
Man, that was my
vinyl.
favorite.
Okay.
But if you can just make 5 minutes for you, what I notice with a lot of people, both men and women, do it every day. We get up, we get dressed, we do our hair, we do our makeup, we wash our face. Men, you might shave. How often do you see yourself?
I see. I'm looking over there right now.
How often do you really look in the mirror, see you, take you in? And so I'm always encouraging people, when you get up in the morning and you do that whole routine that becomes second nature, 15 seconds.
To look
and to
at
see
you and say, I might like me a little bit.
Yeah.
Or I might need to change that, and I might like me a little bit better. Because it don't always also have to be that and that's not, because people think that's bashing yourself or talking about yourself. But sometimes I'm just trying to get a little better. You understand what I'm saying? A little more oomph in myself. But I do that. But I've learned, of course, I work in this field as well, so I do those things. But enhancing your quality of life, she said vinyl and grilling. What about you, brother? What do you do to enhance your quality of life?
I'm more on the music side myself. It's not vinyl, but
she's got vinyl. We're going to go over there and hang out with her.
Go digging them
vinyl.
crates.
Listen, hold on. Vinyl just hit a little differently.
Yes,
you understand
it does.
What I'm saying?
And and I've been around people who actually had reel to reel. So when you throw that reel to reel tape on, man, you hear all the acoustics, you hear the drums, you hear all that. and it's a
Well, I think we
beautiful
need a jam
sound.
session.
I'm in.
And then I watch basketball. Basketball is one of my passions. I'm basketball 24/9.
There's other stuff on the TV you know. I'm
Mm-mm.
just saying. There's other
We watch
sports. There's other.
basketball. We watch it all. NBA, CBA, all of
But
it.
I think it whatever it is, when I teach this to my students, I'm always talking about it doesn't matter what that enhancing your quality of life is. It's yours. I don't care if it's you want to watch TV, you want to sit in the nice air, you want to sit in silence, you want to do your paint your nails, you want to put on your makeup.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I do like that what you said. But do I take my time to really see myself? Do I take the time to see me? I think were we talking about self-reflection?
Yes, we were.
We were talking about self-reflection, and I think that's really important. Positively, I hate to call stuff negatively, just to look at your pros and your cons of yourself, be able to see yourself so that you can work on your mental health, because sometimes us ignoring it probably
is what
makes
leads to the problems. And I do want to add, one of the other things that I really do, it's actually how Moving Mountains coaching came to be, is I'm an avid hiker. And, we were given this earth, this nature for a reason.
It does something.
So grounding and earthing is such an important part of how you reset yourself, because you're connecting with the earth. You're connecting with the source of our energy. I mean, yes, you can, doesn't matter what religion you are, it's the father of all, the goddess of all, or whatever, but it's still this earth that the energy flows through. So I don't get to hike as much as I used to, but I am blessed to have a yard, and I go outside and I sit under a tree and put my feet in the grass and just take a few moments just to be outside, get some vitamin D, and not that vitamin D unless that's what you really need.
See, I can't stand y'all.
But
I mean,
really just soak it all up, because both vitamin
mama
Ds
might
can
be
be
listening.
beneficial if they're done in the right way.
Mama, is she talking about it, Mama? I ain't talking about it. So the next time when we talk about, you're gonna have to not tune into that episode, because we're gonna go in. We're gonna go in, and we might not be able to air that. We might just need to listen to that on our own, so I can learn something. But here's what I want to start with. We have some questions on Facebook, and we're gonna do those. But I wanted to pose a question to each one of you guys. So the question is, I'm gonna start with you, because you're the guest today. Are our sisters okay right now, mental health wise? Are we okay as Black women?
I don't want to put us all in a box.
You know what I mean. Generally, are we okay?
I don't
Generally.
know. I don't know, because I think we can be okay today and not be okay tomorrow.
I can see that.
And some of us are actually doing great. We're thriving. We're winning. We're doing well. And we have podcasts like this one and all kinds of other ones out there that are teaching us how to do it. So you can't say, are we okay? Because some of us, yeah, we're okay.
But whenever
others
I'm
aren't.
talking, it's not about a general. It's not about I just want to know as a whole. So when I look at us as a whole, I'm looking at us like what I see in our communities. And maybe it's something that it just weighs on my heart a little bit more, because I deal with a lot of women. I see a lot of women every single day, and I need us to be better. I need us to be in a better space, and I need us to listen to stuff like that. I need us to go get the counseling.
Right.
I need us to get a life coach. I know one of the part of my business that's been hard for me is life coaching. Not because I can't coach, just because people don't see the value in it.
Exactly.
And they're not ready, and they say, I got this, but then the next day they don't have this. And we could be good one day and not good another day. But as a whole, and I'm not invalidating your answer. I love that answer. Just sisters, if y'all not okay, tap in, man. Find somewhere to be okay. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later, about some resources that we may have. What you think? What you think? Brothers, are y'all okay?
No, we not okay. I think there's a lot of men who suffer in silence. I think there's not a lot of platforms or avenues or resources out there for us. I think we're limited in support. The thinking of Black men right now is at an all-time low. We done had 3 phases since I've been alive with Black men.
Let's go.
We done had the kill 'em phase. We done had the incarceration phase.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
Now we
last
back
week.
to killing.
Yeah, kill them, incarceration, and then kill them again.
And then you have to throw in the alcoholism, the drugs.
But that's
and
kind
all
of
the
like
trauma.
kill them. I feel like that was the kill them
You
stage.
know.
They intentionally put certain stuff in our communities to kill them.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that when I say are we okay, man, I'm just looking out in this world and it makes me sad each day when I'm looking at the spark of suicide rates. That's something that we'll
Yeah.
talk about today. I look at the rise in suicide. I look at the rise of incarceration. I look at the rise of what
Come
am I
on,
trying to
spit it
say?
out. Spit it out.
Drug, substance abuse, alcoholism. So I'm looking at all that and I'm trying to understand is not what I'm trying to understand. What I want to do is help implement something. Let's go. Man, we got to do
It boils
something.
down to the resources that are not existent in our communities.
Yes, ma'am.
And the knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's a lot of different things that go into the knowledge or the lack thereof in our communities. Because we aren't taught to be about our mental health. And maybe we could be talking about black women, black men. And the way a lot of our people are growing up is a nonstop engagement of a trauma, whether it's inside their home or inside of their community. I live in South Phoenix. My house is 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards from where two people were shot the other
The other
day.
day, yep.
That was right by my house.
I was thinking that when I saw it. I said she lived right over there.
I live right there. And, you know, we aren't taught to make ourselves a priority. You know, so when we talk about black women, we're taught to put our men first, our kids first, our communities first, and be selfless and even self-loathing and sacrificing at all times. But the resources haven't been there in our communities. They're not flourishing in our communities. And even some of our own people are working against us when they say things like, well, suck it up, tough through it. It's okay. It's all right.
I be like, listen, I just can't suck some certain stuff up all day long. Like,
pray harder.
But that's what they tell
now
men
everybody
every day.
everybody knows that I love God. But listen, he says faith without works is dead. There is some things that you have to do with the prayer. You can't just pray and then that's it. And they need to stop teaching them.
Yeah, you got to put in the work.
You gotta
if you're gonna pray.
You got to put in work.
He's gonna give you the tools, but you got to put them to work.
You can have a pastor and a therapist at the same time.
Talk about
and I
it.
think they need to be different people.
Talk
but,
about it.
That's my own thing. But we can have. I think we do have to normalize therapy. I was asking you if you we think. I think that we have to start exposing our children to therapy as a young kid. And you made a good point, brother. You was talking about how, but they don't know, they're not ready to talk and listen and all that stuff. And I said I understand that, but the fact that you expose them to it, they'll know where to go. However, I think I remember my mom, I say this all the time, she used to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and it used to get on my nerves. As a grown adult, you learn in repetition. I think we talk about that too. So even though we don't be ready, if you have a good therapist that knows how to talk to you, because you go to some therapists and they just sit there, but you have that's why I like coaching better than I like therapists. But if you go to,
that's why I became a coach and not a therapist.
Therapists talk over people's head.
If you go, or they don't really sit, they don't.
Well,
listen.
and one of the problems that I'm seeing fairly consistently, especially when it comes to black coaches and therapists, is that we're pricing our own people out of the care that they need.
Let's talk about
We're
it.
trying to get rich, you know what I'm saying, so we can live good and only have to service 10 clients a month and then still make $4,000. But our clients are making $20 an hour. So
Right.
so a lot of our people that are working in the mental health space, whether we're talking about coaching or therapists, it's their hustle. Mm-hmm. You can't treat people's minds, hearts, spirits, troubles, trauma as a hustle for you to get over on your own people.
No, it has to be a purpose.
You have to make it accessible. I had a gentleman call me a couple weeks ago. He found me on Psychology Today. And he had just gone through like suicide attempt and was bugging out, didn't know what to do. He thought his wife was going to leave him. He called, I don't know how many black therapists in Phoenix. Nobody would take his insurance. Wanted to charge him $200 an hour.
Listen, at this point,
and he was desperate, and they wouldn't take him.
At that point, as a people that loves their people, we should now be. I would have ate that one. I would have ate that one. He wouldn't even have to get paid. He wouldn't have to. So I do coaching as well, and sometimes I just don't get paid, but it feels very good into my soul Do you understand what I'm saying? To be able to help somebody, because I know what it's like to be in all of those spaces. I know like what it's like to be suicidal. I know what it's like to feel like you have no support. I know what it feels like to be trauma bonded. Yep. I know what it feels like to have trauma responses. I know what it feels like to have PTSD. I can say today that I'm probably still operating in some of that stuff, right? Just because this just happened in 2020. I almost got murdered. And so up the street from where you live at, well, down the street from where you live down around the corner. But I definitely had a problem, right? Yeah. And I have tools. I have tools because I work in this field. But it took me until recently, maybe about November, to actually start using them tools. Right. Mm-hmm. And so think about somebody who doesn't even have any of the tools, and they have, and I had got healed from my past prior to this. Now, let me have not gotten healed from my past. I always tell people this all the time. You always stop growing at the age of your trauma. So if you have emotionally, right? So if you have trauma and it was when you was 11 and you never got any kind of, you just grew up, you're still operating as an 11-year-old, and we see it all the time. And that's some of the issues in our community. We don't realize that we stop. It's almost like what is it, like a barrier that comes right there for growth.
And then trauma compounds.
Yeah.
So just because your initial trauma happened when you were 11 doesn't mean as an adult new trauma doesn't come.
Did you keep on just
and then you keep compounding. You know, mental health professionals need mental health professionals. I practice what I preach. I see a therapist weekly because my trauma started when I was 8. Mm-hmm. And from a span of 5 years, I had 5 brain surgeries, septic shock, 3 breast reconstructions, 2 strokes. And I was assaulted.
At 8 years old?
No, like that happened, that was from 2014 to 2020.
Oh, okay.
But the first 7 brain surgeries I had,
bless you, sister.
I was in kindergarten and 1st grade. I was raised in a house with domestic violence trying to heal from brain surgery. So it compounds.
Yes.
And you can heal from it, and there's other things that can bring it up. Your triggers will evolve as you get older. So you have to have that awareness.
I think we was talking about that, but I think sometimes with triggers too, when stuff happens as a child, you just going about life because you don't ruminate, you don't understand stuff, you just go through life until you get 18 and something happens, and then all of a sudden, so I know for me, I was molested as a child, so I didn't realize that until I had my son. And I couldn't change him. Yeah. And I used to be like, man, what the heck is going on here? And then all of a sudden, all these memories start coming back. And then now you're trying to decide whether, are you making up stuff? Or is this really what happened? So I believe in therapy, and I believe in talking about stuff. You know, one of the things I said, what are the reasons why we are not getting the help? And it was secrets. Like you are told to keep the secret.
What happens in this house stays in this house.
You're not able to discuss this. Don't tell about Uncle Popo and them, and Uncle Popo and them then mess with all. We need to start talking about that. Fortunately, my mama was about therapy. Yeah. My mama took me to therapy. I just didn't talk at therapy. And that's another thing that I think that we need to learn how to.
We need to give our kids safe spaces to talk. I wanted to go back to what you were saying about teaching our kids young. Because a lot of us weren't taught. We were brought up with that. What happens in this house stays in this house. Depending on how you was raised, well, are you reading your Bible? You know, or did you pray? You know, there's just different things that we taught. Or, you know, children should be seen and not heard, so they didn't have a voice. But especially today, the stuff that our kids are seeing, like who would have thought that our kids would have had to suffer through a pandemic and try to find their identity sitting at home, looking at a screen, trying to figure out school.
And that's messed up a lot of these kids.
And there's kids right now that are facing real adult shit. That not kid shit, like real, like I'm
even just having to work. Kids supposed to be going to school. Yeah, that's it. They shouldn't have to be doing.
So we have to learn that our kids are still human. They still have every emotion we do. And at school, they're being exposed to stuff that I know when I was in school, I never dreamt of. And we're not preparing them for it. And sometimes we just need to sit down and listen.
So I definitely agree with you. I think we all just need therapy, and not therapy. We need something that's going to be a therapeutic, because therapy and being therapeutic are two different things.
Two different things.
You could talk therapy all day, but therapeutic is when you get the tools to cure a disease or cure whatever it is that you're talking about. So I feel like it's all gloomy in here because the topic is so, man, the topic's so deep. So I'm going to go to Facebook real quick, and I want to talk about some of the questions that they had. So I asked them, do you have any questions about mental health or anything like that? So one person said, how can we recognize possible mental health issues? How do we recognize that somebody may have a mental health issue?
Setting normalcy in your house, trying to figure out your culture within your home and see if that person can operate within those realms. And if not, you probably should try to, look at certain cues, maybe mannerisms, behavior, responses. Definitely look at those key responses. Anger is one of the biggest responses you can look at. That'll tell you a lot. If you ask a person a normal question that probably shouldn't make them upset, even as a child, and they spaz off, well, you probably
need to look at something.
Need to look at something. Going on. But one thing, I'm glad you touched on that. Before y'all go in, dive on that. I wanted to talk about some things. With one thing that kind of irks my nerves with doctors and ADHD a little bit is I think they're prescribing that medicine way too early. What 3-year-old kid don't want candy? That's gonna sit down. Did you want to sit down at 3 years old?
I didn't sit down. I was always getting my butt whooped for not sitting down.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I don't have. But this is what I think about that is that the parents. You said creating some normalcy and structure, mm-hmm. because sometimes what we do as parents, and I noticed this working in this field, okay, I ain't gonna call y'all liars, but we don't give all the truth. They're just not sitting down. But you got the TV on all night. I have one particular parent that says, well, they don't ever go to sleep. So, but you keep the TV on. Anybody's brain going to be active. You don't have any structure, any rules. Hey, sit here, cross your leg, whatever it is. It don't even have to be all that, but you're not creating structure. You're not even in there with them. So how can we say now, or they're angry because there is something happened, but we're not looking at the precursors and the antecedents like we talk about. We're not looking at the trigger. We're not looking at what it looks like. So I think that depending on what kind of mental health issue that we're talking about, I think we just have to start getting versed on what it looks like, because bipolar we think is mood swings, and that's not what bipolar is. It's extreme high and extreme lows, and they last for a couple of days. They are euphoric up here, and then they crash, and then they're now depressed. And in the euphoria stage, they're doing all this. Yes. I love you, I love you, I love you. If it's a relationship, all that stuff, if I used, listen, everybody gonna talk about that relationship, but we was on a roller coaster, and I used to be like, what is going on? Are we in love or are we not? Oh, you hate me? Which one is it?
And that's not just bipolar. I mean, you've got individuals out there with CTE and all of those things. And I can remember dating somebody that had that. And like 1 minute, we're great. And 15 minutes later, you're pissed. And I'm like, I don't even know just what happened right now. But going back to like the question that you had about like, how do we recognize? Are you seeking the ones that you love? Are you paying attention to them?
That's what I was going to say.
We get busy. Like, just like we don't see ourselves, are you seeing the people that you love around them? Sometimes, what they're going through represents as silence, ongoing sleep, changing appetite, anger, as you were mentioning. I have 2 daughters, and we implemented during the school year tea time. So it's like you get in the car after I pick you up from school, I pick you up from school. So what was your tea today? And then my kids would just drop everything, stuff I didn't even want to know.
Listen, my daughter be like, Mama, let me tell you. I'd be like, what y'all doing in 9th grade? But I will, just to piggyback on what you said, my son he went into psychosis July of last year. He's 17 years old. And so I had to know who he was prior in order to know. He was already going through something.
There you go.
His dad got murdered by the police in 2018. So now sorry. He's reliving. Thank you. He's reliving that over and over and over again, and it finally broke in 2020. I think that had to do with sitting in the house, not being able to do his football, not his normal enhancing your quality of life. His brain literally switched back to 2018. I'm looking at him now. First of all, the first day I'm looking at him, I'm like, this is weird. Why do you look like that? He's swirling around, laughing, and that's not no. He's usually chilling, right? He's laughing and stuff like that. So my other son tells me, I think he did some drugs. I'm like, that don't look like drugs, man. But it could be, right? That don't look like drugs. So, all right. So I was like, okay, whatever. The second, he couldn't sleep that night. He all of this stuff. Now I work in this field. So the next day I said, we going to the hospital, because if these drugs would have been. So we get in there, he can't sit down, he's running out, he's trying to talk to the girl, acting like he's asking the little man if he's his dad. He don't know who he is. So that's day 2, right? So they couldn't do nothing because he wouldn't take a drug test, he wouldn't do anything, and I already know that's if I take him to the hospital, they're gonna ask me to have that,
Yes.
right? So, but see, so then the third day he walks. I ended up going to work and I told my oldest son not to leave, and he left him. He ends up walking miles. He got there he didn't have on no shoes and no shirt. It's not like him. I said, oh no. So we chased him down for about 4 hours. Took him straight to the mental health hospital. And the lady was trying not to take him. Listen, we in there. I said, this is not the time for you to be arguing. Like, nobody got time. You're going to take him today. So anyway, he ends up being in there for 10 days. Had I have not known my son, I would have thought like maybe he's doing drugs or he just tripping, or I would have whooped his ass. And you know how we do. Sit your down. But no, something was wrong. And as he went on, he was thinking he was his dad. He was switched all the way back in 2018, his whole brain. And it took him 10 days to even come back to over here. So even now today, what I tell him, you got to stay focused. You got to stay in therapy. I've had him in therapy all this time, but he won't talk. And then, a month ago, his friend got murdered. His best friend got murdered at the McDonald's. I don't know if you saw that story
sure I
down
heard about
in Levine. So he got murdered. So now I'm watching him even more. So I think in order to, even if you don't know, this is what I tell my staff all the time. Even if you don't know what the diagnosis is, you know what's abnormal for what's not normal for them.
And sometimes it's not a diagnosis.
I don't like diagnosis.
I had my two of my nephews and my niece lost their father, December 30th of 2020, I think it might have been, to gun violence.
My condolences.
And when we go through grief, we recognize that we know what's happening. Mm-hmm. But, our children, their minds are still developing, their spirits are still developing, their emotions, their hormones, all of that. And as adults, we aren't taught. We don't know how to process grief. And grief goes in cycles. So, I know for me, I lost my grandmother. I don't even think I realized she was gone for a year. Mm-hmm. And then when it hit, kind of like you were saying with your son, when it hit, it was like, okay, now I got to do all these cycles that I thought I did already. I thought I was okay. And the way that our children deal with it is different.
Definitely.
Because they have no clue. They don't understand. Imagine being young and finding out the finality of death.
I was taught that early, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but we're not teaching our kids how to understand and process and maneuver through it, especially in our communities where violence is normal.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, you know what? To piggyback off that, and we kind of self-teach throughout the hood.
Right.
And we teach each other the wrong things. We teach each other to be more angry. Yeah. Because somebody passed away. Like I remember when my grandma passed, and there was a couple young men not acting accordingly, and I had all I could take, so I snapped. And and the young lady said, "Man, leave that man alone. Y'all ain't see that man just comes from wearing a suit. Y'all know we don't wear suits in the hood. Like, stop that,
Yeah.
And it was a bad 2 weeks, honestly, because a lot of those cats tried to prey on that weakness, and it didn't work out in their favor. So you just took somebody, and I was a different spirit in the hood.
Yeah.
I really wasn't like those cats. Those cats didn't go to school. I went to school every day.
Right.
Not because I didn't want to be cool, but because I wanted to be cool in my own realm.
And don't think I'm soft just because I'm doing right.
Definitely.
And catch me on the wrong day.
Definitely.
And I mean, so we don't want to portray our kids that are coming up in the hood or minority community aren't doing great things, because you were going to school, you were doing all of those things.
We press each other too much.
But
that's a good point.
All it takes is a trauma, something to shake that child. To
change,
throw them off their trajectory.
That's what I'm going to say. That could change the whole trajectory.
It is so important, though, to really still see who that child is. Mm-hmm. Who that child is at their core, whether it's a female or a male, child. Because the core of that kid is still there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the only
way.
Do
we care enough to still dig?
That's what I was going to say. That's the only thing that's going to... Being able to see them is gonna dictate our guidance, right? Mm-hmm. And where I always tell my kids all this. I say all the time. I said, I know y'all don't like me pressing y'all, but I'm gonna press you to your greatness all day. And so they always ask me why the press is different depending on who it is. Because I said, because if my son he wants to play in the NFL. I know he got to go to college to do that. So I'm pressing his grades. My daughter, not so much. She's a free spirit. She's just free.
She's an artist.
She's just, yes, she's just free.
I have one of those.
She's not going. So, and I'm not putting that on her. If she wants to go to college, she will, but I doubt it. She's not interested in school at all. But she'll create something. She's been doing YouTube since she's one of them. So, based upon their path, we have to press them that way. But what we have to do is get to, if their mental health is not okay. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy of basic needs for life. We talked about that. You can never get to your self-actualization stage if you don't have the security that you need to have. And if your mental health is off, it's a problem. So let me answer these questions, because I knew it was going to be like one of these. But let's finish. So most of them are asking for resources, and we're going to get back to that at the end. Like, what resources can we find? But one of the questions is, how do we get others to understand it's not taboo and we all deserve to be mentally well?
We need to have more of these conversations. Mm-hmm. We don't spend enough time talking about it. Mm-hmm. You know, we do. We drink about it. You know, we fuck about it. Ooh. We do all these different ways to not deal with it. But we don't talk about
those are real good points, though. I'm making jokes, but like, we definitely do have sex to try to fill a void. So being molested, that's something that is very promiscuous. You're either not at all, or you're promiscuous in a way that you're trying to fill some kind of void. It sounds like it may make an oxymoron, but I've been there and I definitely know what it was. But we have sex around every time something happens. You go to have sex because it makes you feel better,
or you drink it away,
or we drink it because I would. Woo, listen,
man, get to know your children, man, because you just gotta recognize those behaviors and those key things that actually change. If they start to not like things they used to enjoy, you might want to
definitely.
So then, about the taboo, like, we gotta stop, like, when we do see those things,
have those open conversations.
So then we have to have open.
Sit down with your kids.
Listen, they not my friends, but we can have open. I just say that because I'm always going to be their parent.
Yes,
and I do different things with my friends. However, we chilling. We have open conversations about everything. It doesn't. Whatever it is.
Don't scare your children away.
It's not. People say, like, just one thing that the sex before they're grown, stuff like that. Listen, my son came to me and said he needs some condoms. He gets condoms.
Yes.
He gets condoms. Because what I'm going to say, no, don't do that.
Right.
And now, do I give him my desire?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, he's almost 18 years old. What
and the temptations are always around him, but we don't prepare them.
Right.
And
then they're getting STDs.
Or messing up their future
with babies and all
because listen, babies, I love my kids, and I did not mess up my future, but it did take a different route because I did have babies very early.
Or learning sex in a negative manner.
Yes, like you were talking about earlier. We're gonna get back to that topic.
Learning sex in a negative manner.
The other thing is a lot of us came from the spare the rod, spoil the child generations of how we handle discipline with our children. And, all of the other things we talked about in terms of engaging with them and in conversations. When was the last time you messed up as a parent and you handled it wrong and you said, I'm sorry?
Just today, right before I came here.
But are all of us doing that?
No, we're not.
Because,
that's big.
I think
that even hurts me when I had to do it. I was really in there debating, like, if I need to go tell my daughter sorry.
You want to humble yourself, sit down on the floor and look at your child standing over you telling you everything that's on their heart.
Yeah.
And then just having to go, you right. Those are your feelings. Those are valid.
You have to validate that too. Then we've been harping on that.
Validation. Yes.
Validation, man. If your kid tell you something, just because you might not think it's true, at least check it out.
And we've been talking about you can't take somebody's perception away from them.
That's right.
How they perceive
Look in the
mirror.
So
one thing I have done with my younger set of kids is let them be able to have a voice. Now listen, now I want to take their voice away because they're a little too voicey.
Oh yeah.
I'd be like, good grief. But what I do appreciate is that they're able to voice it. Like, my son would straight say, Mama, well, who you yelling at? I'd be like, excuse me? He said, I don't mean it like that, but who are you yelling at? And I'd be like, nobody. And my bad. Let me bring my voice. Because that's what I would tell him. And what's good for the goose is good for the gander, ain't it? What is it should be respect, right? It should be a mutual respect.
And by us respecting our children, they learn to respect
Themselves,
themselves.
yeah.
It elevates their self-esteem and how they carry themselves when they leave us.
Yes.
Did
Keeps
we
them
say
from
that?
acting a complete fool.
We said that last week too.
She was in all. She said
You,
she didn't listen to
you
nothing,
gotta
but
see. We
she
on.
might be have to. We might have
Trying to
to add a
tell
third
you,
person
man. You
to
practice
our
how
show.
you play.
So I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. I wanted to talk about. So there's a guy that rest in peace, Curtis, that committed suicide this week.
I'm so sorry.
He's in the community, in our black community. He does T-shirts for a lot of different businesses. And his wife, and I hope I'm not, she put it on Facebook, so I hope this is not overstepping my boundaries because I want them to not think I'm being disrespectful. But what she said was he was dealing with some childhood trauma. He had started seeing a therapist, and she said, I think that it was just a little too late. Right. And so that hurts my heart because one, we got to stop traumatizing these kids, man. We got to really be careful and paying attention to their interactions, who's around them, where they're going, how they're going there, what we're saying to them,
Yes.
because they're not fully developed yet in their confidence, in their self-awareness, they need to be secure. But childhood trauma is the worst thing that can happen to anybody. I always tell people your neural pathways change when which is your reasoning, your feelings, your all that changes when you have trauma as a child. And if it's not healed, then it's even worse. But so I was looking up suicide rate, and from March to June of 2020, black homicide rate went up 94% in the black community, while in the white community it went down 45%.
Our brother's suffering, man.
That's where my question from our brothers okay,
our
because
brothers, we not
most
all right.
of it was black males. Most of it was black males that are committing suicide.
We not all right.
Not the women, which we think. I was thinking it would be us just because we carry a lot of the burden, but no, maybe there's something that we need to know. It's something that you need to. I would appreciate. I ain't gonna say you need to. I would appreciate if you would come on here and tell us what's on your heart, because we need to know. In order for us to lock arms and help, we got to understand. And I've been telling you lately and telling y'all that's listening that I have no idea what it's like to be a black man.
Our voice ain't being heard.
I don't know.
We're not taken seriously for nothing.
Are y'all talking to us though?
I think the black man is tired of talking.
When did y'all start talking?
Man, we've been talking all our lives. Nobody been listening.
I don't believe it.
Yes, we have. We've been taken from our homes, disconnected, not taught how to raise families.
You are doing that, but when did you when did you dialogue?
It's been dialogue throughout our time. We just angry now. It's coming out in anger. It's coming out in our actions. It's coming out in the music. It's coming out in the behavior. It's coming out in the way how black marriages are disintegrating. It's coming out. It's just coming out in different forms because a lot of us feel, again, I'm gonna harp on it. A lot of us men are suffering in silence.
But now, quick question. Do you feel like that comes from where your value is placed? Because one of the things I see a lot when I look at my black men is that, they're taught from a very young age, if you lucky, you can be an entertainer. If you're lucky, you can be a ball player. You can do this. You can do, those are the niches. Otherwise, you just another nigga.
See, I don't. I have a problem with these questions just because, and I'll talk again about my naiveness. I know a lot of black people that wasn't taught that. I wasn't raised in this type of community. So when I think about it, right? Because I always talk about slavery. I'm sorry. It said beat the nigger male in front of the nigger woman, and she would learn to mistrust him, and then she will be stuck in a frozen independent state. She will teach her male offspring to be physically strong but mentally weak. When you tell me something, as I intermingle with lots of black men, that they've been communicating, and we know that I always see a problem with the communication. It's more of a shutdown. It's more of then I go inward. It's more of those things. I need to understand who's been speaking and where they at. You can't speak through your anger. Being angry is not speaking to me so that I can understand why you're angry, so that I can create solutions to that. But being angry is speaking. But how do we can't, if we don't understand each other and we think so differently, right? We think so differently. I can't take your anger and now say it was because of this. I can't even take her anger and say it was because of this, but I might be able to understand kind of because she's a woman, I'm a woman. But culturally, all that stuff could be different. So where has the communication been where we understand why you angry, and have y'all self-reflected on that so that we can help with it? So whoever can help, anytime we're talking about any kind of solutions, we have to know the problem. Correct problem, correct solution. Wrong problem, wrong solution. You're angry. Okay, why though?
I can only speak for, the things I've seen in the communities I've been around. I've lived in a lot of communities. I lived in a predominantly all white community. I've lived in the ghetto. I've lived in the Bugetto. I lived in the Ritzy, what we call Little Ritzy, back in our day. And I just have to say again, I gotta go back to it. We're suffering in silence. We did say it, but it just seems like every time we communicate, something negative is brought about the communication that we displaying. And again, not saying that it's not our fault the way we're communicating,
not blaming nobody.
But
what
it's
are
just
you saying,
it's just
though?
being our voice is being taken because everything seems like is wrong when it comes to a black man,
or invalid.
We go get the same education as a smart Caucasian, a Mexican, or whoever, and we're still looked at as a dumb nigga.
Because why ain't you on the field?
Because why ain't we on the field? I intimidate a lot of Caucasians, not being funny, because they think when I start talking, I'm finna come out with this words and this words and this words, and then when I actually know what I'm talking about and I can validate that, they can't even look at me in the eyes.
Yeah.
And black men,
because you don't meet the stereotype
and
they
black
were
men do that too.
So maybe you're,
Yeah.
Black men, I've had a lot of black businessmen do that to me.
Well, I think we
Yeah.
do. We got a
Brothers.
crab in a barrel mentality in our black community, period. On one of
Like,
my first episodes, we talked about
so
that.
you gonna go hire dude? Yeah, he might be a little smarter, but is he gonna be loyal to you?
That's good.
Y'all looking at hiring the smart people. Y'all need to hire that loyalty. I want to hire loyalty, because if I hire loyalty, that trust is gonna automatically be there.
I like it. Well, what else? Listen, I think that I see how you got passionate about that. I want to know those things. Like, what are so the communication we need to hear is that we're not getting respected as much as another person that's in the same situation as we are.
Man, that
Or as you are.
American
And we're
dream.
not given safe spaces. I know for a fact that the brothers aren't being given safe spaces because they come to me. And it takes a lot for them to reach out to a black woman as a coach and be like,
need
there's
some
some
help.
things I got to work through.
I think we're not giving them the safe space too. I think that we're.
I
I
was
think.
just
I
finna
think
go
that
there.
she will teach her male offspring. She will mistrust them. See, people don't think this is slavery at all. They think that we're done with slavery because we got out of physical bondage. And I don't care what nobody got to say. We are still mentally bound to this slave mentality, and I have a problem with it. As a woman, you know that I try. I'm not perfect, but I try to listen to what you're saying. I try to understand. I wasn't always like that because we both was going through our own stuff. But today we need to start listening. We need to start having those dialogues. I think a couple of shows ago we were talking about dialogue versus argument, dialogue versus debate. We need to start dialoguing about these things because
And
it's
then
important.
on both sides, we need to understand that to have a conversation doesn't always equal an argument or a confrontation.
No, yes,
and it
that's
doesn't
what we're
have to. But a lot of times we figure because black women get the perception that we don't care, we angry, we're bitter, all of these things. We have to give each other the grace to be able to come together
say
and
what we
have
need
those
to say.
conversations.
And sometimes they be
And
hard.
sometimes on either side, you just need to shut up.
Girl.
Can we agree to disagree
was
though? Like, at some point when you're not getting anywhere, when you're saying what you're saying and he's saying what he's saying, and the validation has been there, the communication has been there, and you can understand what that person's saying sometimes, correct?
I think yes, we can
Agree
we
to
should
disagree. Because you're going to
why
feel...
you always making me
'cause
say
I'm
what
just
you
hold
want
on.
me to say?
Because at the end of the day, you're going to feel how
No,
you
I'm
feel,
finna
and
talk.
I'm going to feel how I feel. And hopefully, it's okay to not always agree on a certain thing.
I feel like what I was trying to say is it depends on what situation we're in, because some things we're going to have to come to a compromise. So if we agree to disagree, we're still going in two separate directions sometimes, right? So it just depends on where we're at and what we're doing and what's the goal and do we have to move this way. So some things we can just
And you can practice a pause, by the way.
that's what I was about to say.
You know,
Sometimes we gotta
you can
come
do
back.
it with your man, with your girl, with your kids. You know, if it's heated, and that's part of our problem. We're taught to like, I'm no punk. I don't run from confrontation.
Walk away.
But it's okay. And you don't have to be a punk about it. You got to say, you know what? I'm gonna practice the pause.
I teach that all day.
Practice the pause, and if
Women,
you still
wait a
if
minute.
you feel that way
Women-
about it 2 days later,
Wait a minute, women.
talk about it.
Women, I gotta say this. Let him walk away and stop following that man, because some of this domestic violence, get out that man's face, man. I see that all the time. Leave him alone. Let him walk away. Stop egging him on. Keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself, because listen, at the end of the day, for me, I'm just realistic. If I'm punching all in the man's face and I'm
still a man.
I'm and he ends up snapping, why is now he in trouble? You understand what I'm saying? Both, just keep your hands off people. Let people walk away. Let people calm down. Let people do what they need to do so they can come back. I think that's the key thing. If you understand that people get to a level of, I just can't take no damn more. You know, I tell people all the day, I can't process nothing else. Anything that comes out my mouth after this is going to be a problem. That's my pause. Leave me alone and stop picking at me, is what I always say. Just leave me alone and let me walk away. But I like that. But then, because after we come back, or after we think about
You'll
it,
know if you
we
still
still need to
mad
talk
in a
about
couple
it?
days, then you know it still matters. But you can save a lot of hurt,
Girl,
a lot of pain, a
some
lot
of
of
stuff don't
frustration
matter.
by saying, you know what,
that really didn't even matter.
I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go for a ride. You know what I'm saying? I'll call you tomorrow, whatever. And just walk away, because arguments in any situation with anybody will escalate if somebody doesn't say,
And
you know
nobody's
what?
thinking
going
rationally
nowhere.
at that time. Nobody's
And
thinking
unfortunately,
rationally.
what y'all talking about amongst, honestly, even I've been in a lot of situations like friends and all that. What y'all talking about being, I'm just gonna put it out there. This is rare.
That's
This
what
ain't
you
the
always
normal.
say. But
You mean the conversation we're
but we
having?
know that.
The understanding.
But we know,
Yeah.
I
The
know that.
openness. This is rare.
I think
and this is
that's-
why men.
And but
this
we're
is why
taught not to
men-
be open.
Right. This is why men aren't communicating.
As
more.
a coach, or as a life coach, or a mental health coach, or even counselors that are really counseling, you have to learn those skills. And it's sad that it's rare. It's sad that we're not taking. We need to take this. We need to coach our kids. That was the first coach.
Yes.
Coaching your kids so that when they grow up, my kid. Let me tell you something. I remember. So my thing was, if you do something wrong, you always have to apologize. So when my kids would get in school, and it would be my son most often, he'd be like, Mama, you gonna make me? Yes, you need to go back and apologize tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask them. And he would go back and
Yes.
apologize. What that taught him as a young age is that when you do something wrong, you apologize. So I'm not gonna say my
And
son.
they learn how to repair relationships.
So my son is 17, and he's the one that I was talking about the mental health issues. So he's cussed me out smooth. Well, he just calls me a nigga, and he just be mad at me, just nigga. And I learned that I'm gonna let him have that. As soon as he done went for his little walk, because I done taught him that at an early age. I hear the lock on the door. He done walked around. He about 15, 20 minutes. He gonna come in the room. He gonna go de-stress on his game. And about an hour and a half later, maybe the next day, he gonna come back and say, Mama, I'm sorry. And that's all that matters to me, because now he was able to process, and he's 17 doing that. If I haven't have given him those tools, he wouldn't have had that. And he would have been a grown-ass man, out here doing kid stuff. Right? Now, is he gonna still mess up? Yeah. But so I hate that is rare, that these are the conversations and these how people act, because this is the information that we need. And I think this is the point, what you said when we said, what can we do? You said, keep having these kind of talks. Keep having these kind of talks. Some people in my life say to me, they ain't gonna change. I'm never gonna say somebody ain't gonna change. I'm never gonna say that. If they come and they want to talk about it the 30th time, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna talk about it a 30th time. And I'm talking as it relates to mental health, as it relates to the betterment of us, as it relates to certain things that we think, because cognitive dissonance is when you only know what you know.
Yeah.
And you only know that, and it's hard to think of something else. So now we've been told to have secrets. We've been told to that not to talk about our trauma. We've been told that this is the stigma. We've been given these stigmas. We've been told those. So now what we're trying to do now in this space is change people's thoughts. So we're going to have to say it over and over and over and over. and over and over. I was asking Mr. Convo Flip, Mr. Flip, Mr. Flip the Convo. No, Flip the Convo. It ain't even Mr. So I was talking to him and I said that this, we're going to have to keep saying, I said, I think I want to talk about something else. I said, but that's not on my heart to talk about something else. I want to get these relationships right in our community so we can now go forth and be who we're supposed to be.
At the same time, though, you can't walk into a relationship in any situation broken all by yourself, like the way you are. Two broken people ain't gonna fix shit.
I said that last week.
It's
I
not
said
gonna
you got to
happen.
come in complete.
So
you gotta go
we have
out
this mentality,
oh.
like we want all the black men to protect black women. We want black women to uphold and all this stuff for black, but we are barely holding it together by ourselves. You have to start with you. If you're not starting with you, your problems, your trauma, your triggers, your issues, whatever hey,
Nothing's
your
gonna
self-care routine, it ain't got to be even that big. If you are not taking care of you and making you a priority, how can you possibly make it work with somebody else?
You can't, because then it just be all that taken out on each other.
Exactly.
Because you're not. I remember when, this is funny, and then we're gonna get to solutions and we're gonna be out this piece. But I remember when I first came into the knowledge of Jesus Christ, right? And I was like talking to him, and I'd be complaining about everybody. I'd be like, let me tell you what he did. Let me tell you what she did. And he used to be like, what did you do? And you need to fix this. And was your mouth right? And did you do this? I used to be like, man, why? You don't see these other people over here doing all this stuff that we're not talking about you. So that taught me self-reflection. Like, because as soon as I started getting some patience within myself, I didn't care about none of that other stuff. Oh, he talking crazy. Let me just walk away. Oh, he doing this. Let me just walk away. Oh, my mama didn't, whatever. And I was telling my friend the other day, I said, I do a lot of talking to myself because, we were talking about our comment about security last week. And I said, we operate in insecurities, but what you have to be able to do is what makes you secure is when you could tell yourself, you know what, I'm tripping.
Right.
I'm tripping. He didn't mean it that way. She didn't mean it that way. That's not what they meant, because, or maybe they're having a bad day and they may have meant it, but
That's the 4 agreements right there. Take nothing personal.
I'm not, it's because it ain't personal. And when we stop doing that, when we're able to operate more in some kind of healthy relationships. So here's the last thing I want to talk about. I think let me make sure I didn't got all their questions, because we really appreciate y'all tapping in.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Keep tapping in. I feel like if I could just reach one person, I think it feels good. It feels good, especially if it's a kid. A lot of the times you have to develop the way the kids' reactions. You want them to teach them good things so they'll learn how to react in a positive manner. Just because you get in a fight, that don't mean you always got to go grab a gun or a knife.
Right.
Sometimes you can fight with your mouth and walk away alive.
And sometimes you can fight with silence.
Silence.
Walk away.
Is better to me.
And we we talked real briefly about the rising suicide rates in our communities right now. And, I want to encourage, anybody that's like struggling, because I'm a survivor 4 times over. And it's not permanent. Like whatever, like the thing about life is nothing that you're going through right now is permanent. Time is always moving. Life is always moving. There are resources out there. You might not want to call one of your friends. You might not want to call your pastor. You might not want to call your mama. Call one of us.
I said that.
Y'all, so we're
Thank you for reiterating that.
That's what I was going to say. Call us. We're going to be able to connect y'all. Resources is going to be very hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post them on my Let's Talk Sis page for everybody that asks for resources. We need to get to who to call, how to call, and we'll post your information there. Y'all can call him. Y'all can talk to me. Y'all know I got issues though, but y'all
and there's always a sliding scale with me. I always provide and work with budgets.
So they were also talking about how there's not a lot of resources in the Black community because we want us to counsel us. So we'll just post, because there is a community that I know that has that. Right now there's a Black support group that's on the Black Women of Arizona page. So I'll put all that information in and start tagging that stuff. But some solutions, I want to just get them out real quick. We've already talked about them, but we talked about normalizing seeking help.
Yes.
And teaching healthy coping skills, teaching people how to kids how to cope when they're upset, teaching them how to walk away, how to breathe, how to journal, teaching healthy habits. And then I talked about changing mindsets. Like we got to change the mindset of how we deal with trauma, how we deal with how we see mental health. They crazy. They not
Yeah.
crazy. That's not what's happening. And then we talked about doing things to relieve stress. You talked about that in your self-care thing. And then protect your peace and protect your kids' peace, man.
At
So
all
if
costs.
you protect your peace, and then you have to understand how to protect. I let nothing come in my house that's unpeaceful for my kids. This is where they live. This is where they need to be able to lay their head. But protect their peace. Pay attention to what's going on. And you know, y'all only job is to parent out here. That's it. When you have children, that's the priority. Not going to the club, not doing even the job you do. I work in the group home arena, and so there's a lot of parents that work 2 to 10, but their kids be home at that time, and then they work 16 hours on Saturday and Sunday.
Hard.
Right. And so I always say, but we need to make sure that we are protecting the piece of us and protecting the piece of our kids and supporting them. Do y'all want to say anything on our outro?
Can I add on
Yes,
that?
ma'am.
It is okay to have your arguments outside of your home, your disagreements. One thing we practice at my house is we'll go for a drive or do it in the backyard, so that we're not letting that negative energy fester in that space. It's got room to move and
like
fly,
that. I like
and be
that.
gone with it.
Yeah.
You can change those places.
That's good.
That you have those conversations, or when it's heavy or negative, you don't have to have it well up in your house.
That's good.
I like that. That's good advice
That's good,
right
and that's
there.
spiritual to me. But
Because everybody can feel that negative energy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know, you walk in a room and you hear.
Yes.
They
Just
don't
feel
even
it.
argue no more.
You feel
can
like a
that.
donut. Feel like a donut of air.
Yeah.
Just,
And don't forget to make yourself the priority.
Yeah,
If you're neglecting yourself, you can't provide to nobody else.
that's true. You don't have any energy for nothing.
right.
What about you, brother? Because we got to get out here. I think
So my last thing I just want to say to the fellas, man, is find somebody to talk to, man. When you feeling angry, when you feeling down, you don't know what to do. You don't know what to do with your lady, man. Find somebody to talk to. Anybody, somebody that you trust, though. Don't just conversate with anybody, man. Conversate with your sister, your grandma, and don't pick a dude. I'm sorry, pick a female to talk to.
Let's see. Got some.
You're gonna get the female. Gonna give you the real.
Okay. All
I
right.
get the real from the females. My sister, shout out to my sister. You've been real from day one, baby. I love you.
Okay, so listen, y'all. If y'all want to hear our podcast, it's going down on centralcityradio.com. You'll be able to go to the podcast tab, look at Let's Talk Sis. If y'all want to do anything on radio, get at my mentor Julian. We love him. But centralcityradio.com, we out this piece.